Alright. So we will start this last session saying the Herzsutra mantra several times together for several times. And as I suggested yesterday, while we are saying the mantra, mainly use the sound of the mantra once again to bring back our minds to this place with this body, and then raise the awareness. Then, of course, if you are able to, take your mind further than just, form of pure awareness, that is fine. You can, take further, such as, the mind realizing emptiness and so on and so forth. But mainly, we'll spend the time while we are reciting the mantra, spend our time to place our mind on the sound of the mantra, then raise the awareness. So that's what we're going to do. Now, going back to the yesterday morning, those four seals, big headache, those four seals. As a Buddhist, very, very important to understand, and not just to understand, apply that understanding in everyday lives. The first seal, to view, to apply that, understand that all the impermanent things are as a impermanent. That's the first seal. Important to that. Second seal is all those impermanent things are subject to bring suffering. Subject to bring suffering. But in the Mahayana may use slightly different term in here. They may use this. Or instead of saying all the impermanent things, they may use this term, saying all the contaminated things. All the contaminated things are subject or have a potential to bring suffering. In the Mahayana may use this, but in general, in the Theravadan and I think I prefer this, all the impermanent things have a potential to bring suffering. That is the second seal. And our discussion is the third one. All the things are absence of substantially existent. All the things are things and events, internally and externally. Important, not important. While we are here, our goal to attain enlightenment. Nothing is excluded in that term when I use all things and events. Everything is included. So the third seal, all things and events are absent or empty of substantially existence. So now, I want to talk on this empty, or quite often term is used emptiness or the selflessness. Selflessness. Now here we need to know something is absent. Something is absent. So what is that something which is absent? Something is absent. Emptiness, selflessness. When the term selflessness, the term self is used in English, that self should not be understood. Should not be understood the self that in the pronoun. Self, I, me, you, self, she, he, she. Not be understood in that pronoun self. Although it is same in Tibetan, dak man. Dak is that self, and also it's same in Sanskrit, anatma. But this self should not be understood as a self, as a pronoun. We use as a pronoun self. I myself, she herself should not be understood in that pronoun when you say selflessness. Instead, it must be understood in an entity, self in an entity, not as a self as this pronoun. That's very important. Very important. Very many people. Buddhist says selflessness. So Buddhists do not believe self. That is misunderstanding. Buddhists believe self. Not only believe self, but also Buddhists believe self goes from here to liberation. If Buddhists do not believe self, why they are working so hard to attain enlightenment? So that is misinterpretation. Because not knowing very clearly, although there is some connection with the self, with the pronoun, but nothing to do, generally nothing to do with this selflessness. The self is nothing to do with this pronoun. It is referring to an entity. entity. In Tibetan it says more. Now here we need to understand this, something is absent. That absent must be, the Nagarjuna says this, Kangla tongpa nirungwa tela tamje rungwayo. Kangla tongpa nirungwa tela tamje rungwayo. You know, we can look at more detail, but meaning is this. You know, this something is absent. From that, because of that absent, everything is possible. We must understand that kind of absent. When you say emptiness, something is lacking. From that lacking, everything is possible. That's what Nagarjuna says. Kangla tongpa nirungwa, saying when you understand the emptiness, tela tamje rungwai, for that person who understands the emptiness, for that person, everything is possible. So this emptiness business should not be understood something completely empty, there's nothing. Therefore, go to bed, rest. Not in that way. Not in that way. You know, this emptiness, empty, absence, lacking. Because of this is lacking, therefore everything is possible. Like in mathematics. Because zero exists, then it's everything from 1 to million, billion is possible. If zero will not exist, one cannot exist. And then now they also, I think the physics, and they're all starting to say, you know, that getting closer to that. If you look at the quantum physics, quite similar. I mean, I have no understanding about quantum physics. I'm lying now, but I read some books and I studied a little bit with other people. But it seems there's similarities, because in the quantum physics, saying things and events come into being through not there's some kind of entity. There's something substantial, but through dependent, through relating to each other, then come into being. And this is here, this emptiness, empty, that which is very important to be understood. Empty, that which is very important to be understood. That emptiness, that empty, which something which is absent. That understanding, that absent must have the sort of what you call the potential or the nature. Everything is possible from that absent. That is important. For example, in the Buddhism, if you look at it like this, those very what you call them. I usually call this, use this term, very attractive terms, or very attractive, or very exotic terms, like some of those what's called those rainforests in Brazil, or they have a very exotic fruits. Isn't it? So in Buddhism, we have those some exotic terms, saying Mahamudra, or saying the Dzogchen, or saying the Shunyata, and all those terms, or saying the Dhammadhatu, or saying the Dhammakaya. Very, very attractive words, very exotic words. At the end of the day, I mean, you can look at all these like Mahamudra, Dzogchen, Shunyata, or the what you call the Dhammadhatu, Dhammakaya. You can look at it from just purely in the Sutrayana, without bringing the Vajrayana. You can look at it in 3 levels. base, path, and the result. At the present, what we are talking about is we are talking about the base. Shi. The Shi Chachin, that means base, Mahamudra, which is in the base. Lamji Chachin, Mahamudra during the path. Debut Chachin, Mahamudra at the resultant. Also the Shi Chuku, Mahamudra at the base. Dhammaka at the base. Lamji Chuku, Dhammaka at the path, during the path. Debut Chuku, Dhammaka at the resultant. At the present, we are talking about the Dhammakaya or the Mahamudra or the Great Seal, whatever term, we are talking about the base. The base. Without understanding the base, there's no way to have the path. Path is that mind which understands. And the result is, out of that understanding, out of that realization, what we'll get. That's the result. So the base must have potential to happen everything. To happen everything in the sense of, in the Buddhist, if I use the Buddhist, the jargon is this: samsara and the liberation. Korwa and nyangde. The korwa means the samsara, nyangde means the liberation. They both arise from the same base. That is, from this nature of emptiness. Nature of emptiness, samsara operates, also liberation operates. That's why Nagarjuna used this term, when they say, because things and events are empty, therefore everything is possible. Everything here, in the summary, samsara is possible, liberation is possible. So the emptiness which we need to understand, in this case at the base level, or the Dhammakaya which we need to understand, in this case the base level, or the Mahamudra which we need to understand, in this case the base level, is we are talking about the ultimate reality of the things and events. That's the base. That is the base. Base in the sense of, that is how things and events are. They are. How things and events, how they are. That's the base. So now, if you look at it briefly, when we talk about empty in our ordinary life, I don't know if it works or not. Sometimes linguistic problem doesn't work. But in Tibetan like this, that means during the causal time, result does not exist. Result is absence during the causal time. Say, for example, earlier, when you sow the seeds, in your garden, during that time, nice flowers not there. During that time, delicious fruits are not there. So fruit or the result is absent during the causal time. Do you understand what I'm talking about? So result is absent, but it is absent only time being. But it will come back, or it will happen. So absence or empty in the sense of because of the time, but not completely absent. Result is not completely absent. Result is not completely empty, but it is empty or it is absent during the causal time. So we can look at absence or the empty from the point of view of time. Do you get it or not? This is important now to get it, because if you don't get it, these things, then you will later, emptiness, there's nothing. So that's not helpful. Another way, another level to look at emptiness, empty or absence. These two things, this bowl and this, the glass of case, this case, these two exist simultaneously. I'm holding together, one in my right hand, one in my left hand. But in here, this is absent. In here, this is absent. Although both are together simultaneously. So we can look at absence, empty, although things exist, but the absence. Do you understand? Look at this one. The earlier one is time. This one is, although from the time's point of view, both are together at the same time, but one is lacking the other. Yeah? Now, look at the third one. Morning, go to the bathroom, to the brush, and do all the things, and you are starting to put your makeup. And what you do? Go to mirror. Oh, I don't know where your mirror is. My mirror is here, so I go straight like this. So, look at the mirror. What you'll see your face. What you'll see your face, your image of your face in the mirror. But in the mirror, there's no real face. What is there? There's only image of mirror, an image of face. But if you think, oh, my face is there, to start to put your makeup there, big problem. When you go out, there's no makeup. All the makeups are on the mirror. Big problem. So in that image, inside the mirror, image of your face, in that image, there is an absence of real face. Although the image appears to you as a real face, but there is no real face. And that is what we call absence of attentiveness. Or not entity. Absence of entity. Absence of entity in the sense of in the mirror, when you see your face, in that image there's no real face. Real face is empty. Entity of, in other words, real face, entity in the sense of real face is empty, not there. Although it appears to us, there's a real face. So we need to understand that one. When you talk about emptiness, we are not talking about emptiness in the sense of nothingness. We are not talking about emptiness in the sense of something exists earlier or later, but at the moment it doesn't exist. We are not talking about emptiness in the sense of, yes, both exist, but they cannot, one cannot be the other. We are not talking about that kind of emptiness. What we are talking about, emptiness in the sense of lack of, entityness. Lack of entityness, lack of, entity. Entity, now this is important. Entity, substantial, inherent, autonomous, those things are you need to learn. Particularly people who are new in this subject, these are the Buddhist jargons you will hear very often. And particularly when you are looking at it on this subject, these are the jargons. Empty of inherent existence, we have seen several times. Inherently existent.
What means inherent? I don't understand the words.
That is difficult one. That is difficult. I'll come.
English. I don't understand.
Inherent. Yes. I'll come. Don't worry. I'll come. Don't worry. I'll come. Okay. Now, first I'll go a little bit these terms. Then I'll explain each terms. Okay. Yeah. Now that is here at this stage. What we are talking about is we are not talking about how our minds see, understands, so on and so forth. At this stage we are not talking about. What we are talking about is when we use the term emptiness, selflessness. Empty of what? Selflessness, what kind of is lessness? What is that self? Which is lessness. And that's what we are talking about. Now in this empty, absence, lack is not something exists earlier or later, but at the moment it's not exist. Not that sort of things, which are the first one. The second one, although they exist, but they cannot exist one at another, not in that way. The third one, empty of, the what's called the entity, empty of entity. Or in other words, we can use instead of say empty of, you can say the entitylessness. Entitylessness. What are you talking about the entity? Entity is that I'll give you that example. That's important. Entity in the sense of the image in the mirror. Image in the mirror. In that image, what is lacking? Is lacking the real face in that image, and that's the entity. And that real face is not in that mirror, and that is what we're talking about. And this can be looked at in every existent thing. This can be looked at every existent. The mirror is used to understand easily. But this can be looked at every existent thing. So that's the one thing which first to bear in mind. Then I will talk a little bit later. My next visit, I will elaborate that. Now the first, I'll give you some terms, including which you asked. I will give you some terms. I want particularly people who are new in this subject. I want you to think in your in German or whatever language is helpful, to think, to understand what is behind the term, and that's important. That's important. Now the terms are this. Yeah. To exist autonomously. That's the one term, autonomously. The first one, to exist autonomously. To exist objectively. Okay, write down that. To exist objectively, the second one. Third one, to exist in their own right. To exist in their own right. To exist without depending on causes and conditions, without dependent on causes and conditions. And the last one, which you asked, to exist inherently. Inherently, to exist inherently. Rangshinji tuba, rangshinji yoba, to exist inherently. So look at these four, how many there are? 3 or 4? 6. 6. Oh, sorry, I've given a long list after only 4. But it doesn't matter. So these terms are used. These terms are used to talk about emptiness. These terms are used to talk about emptiness. But they all have a slightly different connotations behind the terms, but referring to the same thing. Say, for example, your question, what does it mean to exist inherently? To exist inherently, inherent, again, that is not my language, not my first language. Okay, no. In Tibetan, it's a inherent. In Tibetan, it's a rangshin. Rangshin in Tibetan, rangshin, inherent. What does that mean? For example, when you say, oh, that illness is, inherently there. If you say illness, inherently there. That illness, sickness is inherently there. What that inherent give? What's there behind that term inherently? That means he or she didn't take lots of alcohol, then got that illness, or he or she didn't take lots of smoke, therefore that he got that illness, or somebody give us poison, therefore he got that illness. That illness is genetically there, inherently. When you say that illness is inherently there, that means that illness he or she got is not caused by what he or she, or what his or her behavior, eating, drinking, smoking, whatever. Do you understand? So, inherent, that term has a connotation, meaning of something is there, not created later, but something is there. That is meaning of inherent. And autonomous, exists autonomously. Autonomous. We Tibetans are asking to Chinese, saying, give us some autonomy. What we are talking about is, give us some sort of things which we can do, not asking you to permission. Isn't it? So the autonomous exists autonomously. That means it is there. You can. It is there by itself, not dependent on others. Autonomously. And this all these different terms which are used, and I didn't mention that substantially existent. That's also an important one. That I didn't say that. Yeah, all these terms has although each term gives us different connotation, different flavors. Like, for example, I usually make this joke. In England, in UK, they make so many foods from the potato. Chips, mashed potato, baked potato, so many things. But at the end, they all are potato. Isn't it? They all come from potato, they all are potato. But make a different shapes and different, added slightly different spices, you have a slightly different taste. So all these different terms which we use here, they all, end of the day, they all refers to the same point. Same point is, when you say inherently exist, autonomously exist, substantial existence, or what's the other ones, and yeah, all those things, they exist in their own right. All these things give us the understanding there's something there as existence. Does not need something to help for their existence. They all share the same meaning. So I really want you to look at these terms. Find out in German. Think, what does that mean? Exist autonomously. And look at the opposite one. Does not exist autonomously. Each of these terms which I gave you the positive, there's a negative one. Does not, or absence of exist autonomously. You can look at each one of them and not hold that much on the terms, but try to get the feelings. What's feeling behind the terms? And that's important. If you don't get the feelings, then you may end up just, oh yeah, I know this. Absence of autonomously existed. Oh, I know absence of inherently existed. Oh, I know absence of substantially existed. But that knowing what you know is just the term. You do not know the meaning behind the term. So that's important. Use the term, get the feeling, then try to experience what's feeling behind this term. Okay, so important. Yeah, it's almost not 12. Not 12. I'm looking at the British time. It's almost 1. Yeah. Okay. I think we'll leave it here. Better. So now you have 2 homeworks. But lots of time, and I know you are now going on holiday. Summer is coming, but you don't need to take big books. You don't need to do lots of retreat, but just to have a small notes. Try to go through first these lists, the categories. Try to go through these categories and try to understand as much as you can. Then look at these terms which I've given you now. And the last one is this. As I quoted from Nagarjuna, Nagarjuna said, emptiness means everything. So what is that? What is that funny thing? Although it is empty, but yet everything. What is that? Isn't it contradiction? Saying it's empty, but there's everything. Isn't it contradiction? Or is it really possible? Empty, yet everything. So to think these things. Oh yeah. Thank you. Any question? Oh yeah.
I have one from yesterday.
Okay.
You said that there are 4 kinds of sutras. The sutras who came from the mouth of the Buddha, sutras come from the blessings. Yeah. Then after a discussion where Buddha just agreed.
Just now.
And there is one.
Okay. Dembol. It is this, Dembol sutras, which Buddha, Buddha's intention is some other things, but he said this. Say for example, there's a particular very famous sutra, not sutra, it's a verse. Although Buddha was saying to eliminate ignorance and attachment, but instead of saying eliminate ignorance and attachment, he stated saying kill something, this and that. So his intention is that, but it's expressed this way. So these are big-headed. Yeah. Yes?
Can you say to me, is it anything arising?
Okay.
And emptiness, it's the same or not?
No, don't ask that question. That's a big question. Yes, short answer is yes. But you need to understand how these two can be same. One is empty, one is dependent, arising. One is arising, one is empty. Why these two? How these two can be same? If it is empty, it should not be arising. If it is arising, it should not be empty.
But only this can free all keepers, I see.
I hope so. Now, as I said yesterday, just that will not free. The understanding of that will free, individually. Not just that, dependent arising and emptiness. That is there, whether Buddha comes or not. But if we get the understanding, that will help. That will help us reduce the pain and difficulties.
And you can create some methods to free yourself.
Methods?
Pain arising methods to free yourself.
I think you are doing the dependent arising. You are working very hard for that, feeling the stupor, a statue. That is depending arising. Yeah. You can look at it in those aspects. Okay, last one. Yeah.
Maybe it's a big question also.
Okay.
Could you say something more about the word no?
No.
No.
Okay. That is what we are searching. That's what we are searching. As I said earlier, this absence, emptiness. That is the no. Emptiness. That emptiness, we need to understand what kind of emptiness we are talking about. And I'll give you 3 kinds of emptiness. And out of 3, we are looking at the third one. Emptiness in the sense of, entitylessness. We are talking about that. So hopefully if you come next my visit, that may give you some clarification. So that's hopefully, I'm not guaranteed. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. We'll do the Tara prayer together. Praises to 21 times. Chanze Teche Chatan Peki Paro Chukura Tu Choma Yekon Yejan Shakti Nente Mewa Chupa Shintu Bama Chanze Ture Chipa Chenpo Yiki Pavo Nampa Choma Chanze Sheni Chonye Dense Chavo Tamche Maru Sema Chanze Kunjo Somjen Chage Semre Tuka Nampa Gema Maru Choti Koro Gembe Rani Uji Chonam Truma Chanze Ratu Gawa Chipe Uye Muki Chengwa Pelma Shepa Rakshe Tutarai Dutam Chikken Wandu Sema Chanze Sashi Kyongwe Chonam Tamche Kupa Numanima Tonye Yoga Ige Honki Pongpa Tamche Nampa Kerma Chanze Dale Tumbu Ugyen Yenpa Tamche Shintu Bama Rebe Tune Upa Mele Taka Shintu Urat Sema Chanze Kebe Tame Meta Bave Chengwe Una Nema Yejan Yungkung Gunye Koge Dai Bumi Nampa Choma Chanze Sashi Nula Chagi Tiki Nunjin Shakti Duma Tonye Chenze Ige Honki Rimpa Dumbo Nami Gema Chanze Dema Gema Shima Nyange Meshi Chuyunima Soha Onda Yanda Dembe Dekpa Chenpo Chompa Nima Chanze Gune Kora Kawe Dai Luni Nampa Gema Ike Chupe Nami Kupe Rikpa Umle Manima Chanze Dure Shakni Dape Onke Nampe Sape Nima Rira Mandara Tambiche Chikken Somnam Yoga Nima Chanze Lai Choi Nampe Rita Tachen Chananama Tara Niche Peki Ike Durnama Ripani Selma Chanze Lai Chotnam Yeko Latam Miyam Chi Penma Kune Kochakawa Chiki Sedam Midam Kempa Selma Chanze Nima Dava Yebe Cheni Pura Urap Selma Harani Chetutarai Shintu Takpurinne Selma Chanze Deni Sumnan Köpe Shive Tutam Yantam Dema Detam Rolam Nechin Choknam Chokpa Ture Rapchom Nima Sare Mati Dupadita Chanze Vani Nishu
Oh yeah, dedication as yesterday evening. Dedication to increase the bodhicitta. Dedication for long service, which is long life, and dedication for His Holiness Dali Lama's long life.
Chanze Oh yeah, thank you.